I want you to ask yourself a question. How important is it to understand the person that you're interacting with? If you're anything like me, your gut reaction is to say, oh, it's super important. But then let me ask you this. How much time do you take and how many questions do you ask to get to understand the person that you're talking to? And that's where I get convicted. I go, I don't do that very often, right? Whenever I get in that frustrating conversation, I stop going, oh, what are they thinking? And I start going, how can I convince them that what I'm thinking is the right way? Or how can they not see my frustration and how important it is that they understand it? And the counterintuitive thing about those frustrating interactions, whether it's an argument at the grocery store with somebody about who's first in line, or maybe it's with a close friend and you had an interaction that you later go back and you say, hey, that was really frustrating for me. And they say, well, that was really frustrating for me. How could it be frustrating for you? And then it turns into this big thing and you go, well, are we ever going to be friends again? In any and all of those situations, rather than focusing on yourself, seeking to understand what's going on the other person's side, seeking to understand the other person is going to be really valuable in clearing up the frustration of that situation. Fortunately, there are a lot of non-frustrating conversations that you have with people where understanding them helps you be inspired and helps them see you as a really good friend or somebody that they can trust. I just had a recent example of this. I was talking to a friend and he was telling me about his career choices and why he was doing what he was doing, even though there were a lot of things that he wasn't enjoying, but his ability to take care of the things that were really important to him with the money that the work was making, rather than going to a job that might be more fulfilling but pay a little bit less. He knew, he had that clarity in this time that was the right thing for him, and I thought that was really beautiful. And I could also tell in that interaction that there weren't a lot of people that took the time to ask him about that and see what his perspective was about it and how he was doing with that. And it was really nice to be able to see the load that he was carrying and be able to take some of that and just see him get a little bit lighter in that conversation. Just a little bit, because it wasn't a really long or really super deep conversation. And it doesn't need to be to understand where somebody's coming from in certain environments and interactions. And if you can build on that as you have opportunity, right? You don't want to just go, somebody goes, oh, the weather's nice. Oh, what is your deepest, darkest fear? You don't want to do that. But if work comes up and you say, hey, what are your thoughts about work? What do you value there? What is difficult for you there? Then you can help them go, wow, somebody actually really cares about what I'm doing with a good chunk of my time. Or if you go, hey, I know that you're not working right now. How does that make you feel? Without being judgy, that can be really helpful as well, right? People will kind of walk around with their shields up and their walls up. And if you can say something or do something or interact with them in a way that helps them let their guard down, and you don't take advantage of that, and you're not mean about it, and you don't say, oh, this person confided this in me, and I'm going to throw it back in their face. I remember Brene Brown giving a talk, and she said, yeah, my husband woke up, told me about this dream that he had about a swimming accident with our kids and the underlying fears that had. And she said the next time that he goes to swim with the kids, she can respond in a few different ways. And she says, in the more immature moments, she can have a really well-meaning response saying, hey, are you sure that you're feeling up to or strong enough to go swim with the kids right now? Or she can be supportive and say, hey, have fun. I'm here if you need anything. And just being there, listening to the vulnerability and the tough things that people are going through often just has a nice release that you don't necessarily need to be watching out for and always overprotecting on. You can just say, hey, how are you doing with this? I know that was hard for you in the past. Is there anything I can do to help? And then that puts the ball in their court to say, oh yeah, thank you so much for remembering that. And I am really struggling with this. Could you, it'd be really helpful if you came over for an hour and helped me with this project in the house. Help me paint a room. Anything like that. Just the little things that build up over time. There are no overnight successes. All overnight successes happen in a series of small habits that build up over time. And so if you can be that relationally for somebody, slowly build in making sure that they know that you're safe to be around and to talk to, then that's going to be huge. Like I have a friend, I know that if anything happens, I can always call him and he'll say, hey, you did your best. It's okay. You'll make it through this. And just knowing that that's out there, shout out Tim, just knowing that that's out there is just so helpful and beneficial to me, because there are probably other people that would also react that way, but I know for sure that he will, because we've built relational equity over time, and he's shown time and time again that he is the kind of person that I can go to, and he'll say, hey, keep your chin up, not in a condescending way, but in a loving, beautiful way that helps me know that there's people on my team and on my side. And if you can do that, if you can be that person for somebody else, that is just so beautiful. So how can you be that for somebody else? Well, one thing that you can do is just ask really good, personal-ish questions, right? You don't want to get too deep and make people really uncomfortable, but just a little bit of discomfort is necessary in order for people to kind of open up a little bit. So you ask something that's just a little bit uncomfortable, or if you ask a question and somebody gets a little bit uncomfortable, maybe you think it's a pretty normal question, but they get a little bit uncomfortable, say, hey, it's okay, I see that you're uncomfortable. You don't actually have to talk to me about it, but I would really like to know what your thoughts are on that, what you value, because I can see that it's really important to you. And they'll go, okay, maybe, and then if they decide that you're in that moment safe enough for them to continue talking about that, then you can bring it up next time in a loving way and say, thank you so much for sharing that with me. It really meant a lot. How is that going? And just having some follow-up, again, putting the ball in their court, having them be able to initiate or deflect as the moment requires, will help them see you as a safe person. And doing that can take a lot of energy, so you don't necessarily have to really focus on building a ton of understanding with everybody that you ever interact with, because you're human and you can only sustain so many relationships and go so deep so often. And if you can build that understanding with just one or two people over time, and think about ways to follow up on what they've talked about in ways that go just a little bit deeper and deeper each time to help them know that they're cared about, then that can really make a big difference in their life and help other people. That can inspire them to help other people the same way, and have just an exponential effect because of the intentionality that you have brought to somebody. So I hope that inspires you today. And I'd love for you to put in the comments the nickname or the first name or the last name of somebody who you're going to take that intentional time here in the next few weeks to get to understand just a little bit better.